How's it going, producer? Did you come up with an idea? Maybe it's some chord progression or a 4-bar loop or a melody or even just a riff and it sounds good. You know it could turn into a nice song and maybe you don't know how to go from there to finish the song because the creativity is gone. I've been there many times. As producers, we have lots of unfinished ideas that we save, then forget about for months, even years. We all have that folder with 200 projects we've neglected, right? Tell me in the comments how many you have right now. But there's a way to change that, and I'll show you. The truth here is, everyone does it in a different way, so I'll share my process and some tips I learned over the years. It doesn't matter what DAW you use, if you produce pop music like me or a different kind of music. It works for any style, okay? So first of all, when you start your session, don't overthink. Don't loop your ideas over and over again. Just try to work fast and put as many ideas out as you can and see where it leads you. The initial inspiration is what keeps you moving forward. Lay out everything you can hear in your mind, all the instruments and parts. It may sound terrible and it's okay for now, and it's also okay to delete stuff and start over. Don't spend a whole day on a loop that's not working. Not every song is going to be finished, and not every part you write has to be in the final product. With that in mind, I'll give you 3 practical ways of developing your ideas into full tracks. Then we'll take one of my songs as an example, and I'll show you how it went from nothing to a full arrangement. Number 1, listening. If you're short on ideas, the best thing you can do is take some time to actively listen to music, looking for inspiration. Sometimes the weirdest things will inspire you, like it happened to me when I heard this clicking sound in a song by Justin Bieber called What Do You Mean? It sounded like a clock ticking. Then I sat down and wrote this whole song about procrastination. Number 2, recreating songs. Another thing that always inspires me is trying to recreate other people's songs. First I try to replicate their sound, then I start changing things around, messing with the synthesizer controls and chords and melodies. Maybe you can pick a song you like that has a similar vibe to what you're aiming for and use it as a reference. And if you love music like I do, your ideas will start flowing and take you in a different direction that's very unique and has nothing to do with the starting point. There's this cool book, Steal Like an Artist, that you've probably heard about already, and it makes you realize pretty much every piece of art is derivative. So don't be ashamed of having references and being influenced by other people's music. Change the chords, the melody, the rhythm, change the placement of the drum beats, the tempo, the key, use different instruments, split phrases into more than one instrument, pen things differently, and you end up making a song that's 100% your own and no one will ever be able to tell which song you referenced. Number 3, music theory. Another thing that people don't usually talk about in electronic music production tutorials is studying music theory. It's funny how every time I sit down and learn a new concept in music theory or go deeper in a concept I already know, I immediately get ideas of how to apply what I just learned in my songs. If you're trying to become a music producer and you have been told that you don't need to learn music theory to be able to make music and you're always suffering from writer's block, you open your DAW sessions and they're empty or it's just a loop that never seems to go anywhere, well, maybe you could use some knowledge of music theory. It's usually one of these things: lack of inspiration that can be solved by listening to songs you appreciate, or even better, recreating those songs, or it's lack of music theory background, which can help you figure out many ways to express your ideas and emotions through music. Of course, you know some artists that never learned music theory and still came up with great songs, but I guarantee it's not a waste of time. It's actually a huge time saver if you intend to make music for a long time like I do. Some VST plugins can help you with that, like the Scalar plugin. It's like a shortcut to music theory. It's not the same, but hey, it may work for you. Now, this is exactly how I take any idea and turn it into a full track. I'll use this song that I recently finished writing as an example. It's called Silence Hurts More. The first step is to find something interesting, which you probably already did when you came up with your loop, your chords, your melody, or song idea. In my case, I wrote the lyrics first. My initial idea was just a story I wanted to tell. Do you have a story to tell? Maybe that's a good starting point. And I had no idea what the melody or chords would sound like. I just pictured an arrangement with a string section that kinda reminded me of a song by Adele, with those high energy choruses against quieter verses, so lots of dynamics and tension. So what's next, right? In my opinion, the best approach is melody first. Even though I know many people start making songs with chords or drum beats, it's a personal choice. So I took my MIDI controller, which is the instrument, and I started playing notes, trying to match them to the lyrics and trying to have a certain degree of call and response, tension and release. And I didn't save time here. I spent a long time trying different combinations using the guidelines I already showed you in one of my videos on how to write melodies, and I'll make sure to link that video in the card and description below. And at that time, I was just writing the melody. I didn't think about chords, drums, or anything. It was laser focused on writing a melody. In terms of song structure, I like to start my melody writing with the chorus, so the best ideas get the spotlight. But this time, I did the verse first, then the pre-chorus, then the chorus, then the bridge, following the natural progression of the standard pop song. In this initial phase, it's just a piano sound. The melody of the verse ended up sounding like this. In this part, having a MIDI controller can be really helpful. I couldn't imagine writing songs without at least a 2-octave keyboard controller. It would be too easy to forget good melody ideas because of how long it takes to place the notes in a DAW with a mouse. So make sure to get really comfortable with your MIDI controller, then improvise and experiment with the notes that kind of match the vibe you're going for. Always have that in mind. What type of mood do I want to create? Does this match the emotion of the words in my story? Does this melody resemble what the tone of my voice would be if I was saying these words to someone? And don't be afraid of hitting the wrong notes, like notes outside of the key you're working on. Sometimes they inspire you. After you find something that makes sense to you, like I did with this melody you just heard, it's a good time to find chords that reinforce that mood. Nothing fancy for now, just look at the notes of your melody and figure out if you want to make them sound more unstable, depending on the meaning of the lyrics, or more stable if that fits the vibe you're creating. Whenever you want a phrase to sound unstable, use chords that do not include the melody notes. Whenever you want it to sound stable, use chords that include the melody notes. These are the chords I picked to go with my melody. And the reason why I like to choose chords after writing the lyrics and melody is because I produce pop music and everything revolves around the singing. But if you make another kind of music like some EDM styles, it might make more sense to start with the drum beat or the chord progression or the bass, whatever is the main component in your style. I haven't finished editing the vocals yet, so I can't show you the final product, but I'll quickly show you an acoustic version. It goes like this. Love, I got things to say, been holding on for a long time. Don't give me that look like you don't wanna hear, like everything is fine. I'm a stampede of pounding words, and you're that old lion, just hanging there speechless, you're not even trying. In this song, after I was done writing lyrics, melody, and chords, I started working on the rhythm section. To me, that's the next logical step. And the drum section is definitely not the focus on this one. So I listened to a lot of Adele to see what the producers did, and at some point I even recreated the instrumental of one of her songs. And this is what I found would be a good fit for the narrative. A simple drum beat so it won't steal the show at any point, but with a certain level of variation so it doesn't get boring. Now, the foundation of the song was almost ready, but there's no foundation without a bass. The bass is the soul of any song. So that's where I shifted my focus. And since I've been a bassist for many years before I became a music producer, I always like to have a very intricate bass line. I don't like my bass just playing the root notes for a whole bar. I like my bass walking, moving fast, almost hyperactive and anxious, like I get sometimes when I have a good song idea and I'm far from my computer. This is what I came up with after playing around over and over again, and most importantly, having fun with the sounds I'm creating. I even deleted some of the notes because at some point it was too much and it didn't match the overall mood. In fact, I've noticed that with music producers, it's far more common to have too much going on in your songs than to be out of ideas. If your loop has too much going on, more than necessary, start deleting some stuff or just keep it there but turn it off. Oftentimes in music, less is more, so it's important to have the self-awareness to recognize that and simply delete stuff. If it doesn't help build a groove or a harmony, if it feels like it doesn't belong, then it doesn't. Don't be afraid of deleting stuff, and don't let your affection for one piece of your song to hurt the rest of it. Simplicity should be the goal. We don't want to add more and more elements that would just clutter the mix. Then at this point, I took the chords from the initial piano and found the instruments that would play them. Now it's not just a simple piano. I spread the notes among a few instruments like a cello, a viola, a violin, and even the piano got to stay. I also made changes to the patterns that these instruments would play the chords to add some movement instead of just having static chords that just last a whole bar. The trick here is to take one or two notes from the chord and assign it to each instrument, then mess with the rhythms so they don't all move up or down in pitch simultaneously. That way, the listener can place the focus in each one of them separately, and that will keep things from getting blurry since the human brain can't process too many notes moving at the same time. Also avoid having too many instruments competing in the same register. They should support one another and pass the spotlight around, and all of them should support the lead vocals and not get in the way. This is how it sounded after all those changes. Now I'm going to show you the trick to turn one section into a full song. It's called Subtractive Arrangement. You have to make a decision here. What's going to be your song structure? Is it going to be verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, or a different structure? Once you decide that, make sure to set up the locator in your DAW so you can visualize each section easily. Having a very organized session will help you stay focused. And for subtractive arrangement, it's like sculpting something. You take a busy section you already made, duplicate it for as many bars as you want, and start deleting elements from each section. Think about this process in terms of how a song progresses, like an emotional roller coaster. For example, in this story, the verse starts light on emotions, then it builds up energy until it gets to the chorus, which is a huge tension release. Then there's a second verse and things start getting tense again. Then another chorus releases the tension from the second verse, and so on. Ups and downs like a roller coaster, right? That's how the arrangement goes. If every section of the song has all the same components playing the same things, it gets boring quick. That's why we introduce instruments slowly, remove them from the arrangement for some sections, and then reintroduce them again with crescendos and swells for dynamics. And at some point, our song hits the climax, with almost every part playing at the same time. So if you decide to use subtractive arrangement, you want to build the busiest sections first, like the chorus, then duplicate the section and start deleting parts to create less busy sections like the verses. That's one way of doing it, and it's guaranteed to turn a loop into a whole song. Then all you have to do is work on the transitions. Fill the gaps with ear candy and make some changes so it doesn't get too repetitive. Now, in this example song, the chord progressions in each section are different to match the melody. So I made sure to adjust that. Different chord progressions can help you develop new ideas, but there's no problem in using the same progression over and over again, as long as you keep things interesting in your arrangement, for instance by switching instruments that play those chords for contrast. Many pop songs do that. I'll give you a preview of the chorus and bridge so you know what I mean. This is the chorus. And this is the bridge that leads to the last chorus. And that's how I turned one idea into this whole song. Now I just need to finish editing the vocals I recorded, then I'll mix the song and release it next week. If you get to a point where you feel stuck, it's time to take a break. You've been working hard, you deserve that. Take your dog for a walk, that's what I do. Maybe you've listened to your loop many times and it's starting to bore you, or you're getting ear fatigue, so rest your ears. Then later, listen to the song away from the studio with a fresh set of ears and take notes of anything that could be improved. Next time you go back, fix it, then repeat this process. Also, build the habit of finishing what you start, and to make it easier, give yourself a deadline. It makes you work faster and stay away from perfectionism. Nothing beautiful is perfect. And once you're done with this project, save it as a template. It will make the next ones so much easier. Sound good? Cool, thanks for hanging out. Please subscribe to the channel if you learned anything today. Make sure to like this video because that's a big help for me. Alright? I'm Thales and we'll talk soon.